And from the Workers Credit Union studios here at FATV, hello again, I'm Scott May and welcome to North Central Journal. And we have a very special journal this month. We're talking with two representatives of the Greater Gardner Relay for Life, Sandy Long and Marcia Sharkey, who have been with the relay, I think, since before it began, actually. It's been over 25 years for the relay itself in Gardner. How long have both of you been associated with it?
I keep thinking, trying to figure it out. I think it's 12 years because it was one of those things where I had lost my job and I was looking for something to do, and somebody said, "Oh, come up to relay," and I got hooked. So it's been about 12 years.
And Marcia?
25.
The whole thing, huh?
Not the whole thing, no, because it started in 94.
Okay.
Our relay started in 94 and I started in 97, so almost, but not quite. And I started because of our dads and your wife that convinced us to start a team, and from there on, I mean, I was diagnosed with cancer and my sister was, and sadly passed away, and my dad's, and a lot of people. So 25 years, I just was figuring that out as Sandy was talking to me.
Well, and I wanted to talk about that briefly, and that is the draw, the association, the passion you have for the relay. Where does it come from, Sandy? Where does it come from for you?
Well, basically, I too have lost a lot of people, my mother and two aunts, and I've seen so many people suffering with this disease. And if you had said to me 15 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have called you crazy, because this has never been me. I've always been like the person in the background and all that. But for some reason, the passion comes out when I start talking about relay. Every time I think about, well, maybe I should quit. Maybe, you know, I'm getting old, as we all are. And maybe it's time for me to move on. And someone will come into the store where I work or start talking to me, and it just comes welling out, and I, you know, can't do it. I can't quit. Not until we find a cure.
And Marcia, you mentioned the personal connection you have, and I think that's true with my wife and I and our association with the relay. But you're still at it after all that time.
I'm still at it, and it's like, you know, I was diagnosed with it. My treatment was experimental. So I look at the American Cancer Society. They developed the mammogram, and that's why I'm here, because it was found on screening. But my treatment too was all experimental, which is all because of research, and that's where the money goes. So that's my passion too.
Now, this year's relay, a little bit different. It's back to normal.
Yes.
Last couple of years with COVID, it's been a shadow of itself. It's still been held, but in a drive-by kind of drive-through situation. Back to the usual relay this year. What are the events? When does it start? And when is the relay this year?
It's June 10th and 11th at Mount Wachusett Community College. We're going from 6 p.m. on Friday to 2 p.m. on Saturday this year. We've cut the hours a little bit for different reasons. It's going to be as normal as we can make it. We've planned a lot of activities, a lot of things for people to do, and we realize it's going to be like it's not going to be the same. We have to build it up again. We've lost a lot of people, a lot of teams and things like that, and so we're trying very hard now to get new teams in, but bring back some of the old ones.
What have been the challenges of the last 2 years when the relay had to be altered, it had to be different because of COVID? What were some of the challenges you faced?
Keeping the people remembering that the American Cancer Society is still around and cancer is still here. Even though COVID hit us, you know, cancer has affected a lot of people, including my niece, who was diagnosed right the first month of COVID. So that's what, when we lost it because everybody was done with the Zoom meetings and they had it as far as all that's concerned. So we lost that, the lot of people that we lost, but we are getting people back, and people are excited to come back. I just got an email from somebody that said her whole team is excited to be back on the track. So we are excited. And like Sandy said, it's going to take a while to bring it back to hopefully what it was, and that's what our goal is, to bring it back to what it was.
Now, the first night of the relay, to me, is very special. For a number of reasons. The opening ceremony, all of the events that happen as part of that first night. Let's talk about some of those things. It begins at 6 o'clock, and how does it start?
Well, technically, it begins at 3 when we start with the Survivor dinner,
Right,
which
right.
your wife is fabulous at. I can't give her enough praise for the.
She's not the cook, but she sets it up.
Right, right. She doesn't cook, you know. That's
She organizes it.
Yeah.
Yes.
but she gets everything organized. She comes up with the greatest theme ideas, and so we have from 3 to 6 we have a Survivor reception.
Right.
And they can come into the big white tent. Everybody knows the big white tent, and have a little something to eat, get entertained. Platinum Productions does a great job helping us entertain the people with music, and Joanne Landry from Gardner brings her young ladies to sing and things like that. And then at 6 o'clock we have the runners come in from all the different schools in the area. The cross-country runners come in, and everybody just loves that. It's so wonderful to see the young kids get involved. And the person who's organizing it this year said that all of the schools are very happy to be doing it, which we were glad to hear, because, you know, we have lost so much in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And then we do the opening Survivor lap, and we have I think it's one of the best openings that we've ever had this year. And the survivors walk around the track with their caregivers, and then we have a little bit of a break between 7 and 9, and then at 9 o'clock we do the beautiful luminaria ceremony, where there are bags lit all around the track of people who we have lost, or people who are fighting the cancer. And by then it's dark, and you do that silent lap, and I think that's one of the things that really hooked me, because that first year I did that for my mother, and all of a sudden I just felt like she was on my shoulder, and it brought her to me and said, "You're doing good." So it's, you know, like I said, once you're hooked, you're hooked, you know.
Yeah, I think the luminaria is probably the emotional highlight for me. It is, it's beautiful, it's touching. I think if you haven't been to the relay, you've got to see that event. It will do something to you that you probably never experienced before.
Right.
It is a beautiful thing. Now, I want to talk about, because it's very important, you mentioned the survivors and the luncheon for them on Friday. It begins at 3. Survivors and caregivers, and the importance of recognizing those people, those that are fighting the fight, and those that are helping loved ones and friends fight the fight. Let's talk about the importance of both groups, survivors and singling them out, and the caregivers.
And that's who we can't forget, is the caregivers. I couldn't have made it without my caregivers. And I was a caregiver also, so I've been in both roles.
Yeah.
But our relay is about, excuse me, celebrating the survivors. And we're also there to remember our people that have lost that battle. But caregivers, they're our rock. They really are the rock of relay. And it's so good that our relay acknowledges that. And the important thing too is, those of us who have been a caregiver to those people that we've lost, you are still a caregiver. And it's not like you have to be a personal taking care medically of a person either. It's like if you bring a meal, if you send a card, if you do anything for a survivor, a person diagnosed with cancer, you are a caregiver. And it's so beautiful to recognize. And that happens, there is a recognition of our caregivers on Saturday also. So Saturday morning, there'll be a reception in the big white tent, like Sandy said, from 9 to 11 for the caregivers also. And the survivors can come with the caregivers. And then at 10 o'clock, there's going to be acknowledgement and a lap with caregivers too. So we recognize them beautifully.
It's important too, I think, to point out to the folks watching how much goes into planning every year the relay. And it is not a month ahead of time. It is a year-long process. I'm somewhat aware of that. It exists in my home. Tell us about all the planning that goes into and leads up to the event itself. When does it begin?
You know,
Or it never
truthfully, I
ends.
think we only have the month of maybe July and August off, but other
Yeah.
than that, we start with our event leadership team, our ELTs we call them, start their meetings in September. And we have a kickoff usually in the fall with our relayers, and we pick a theme, and we just go every month. Our ELT meets, the teams meet starting in January, and it's once a month, and it's constant. It's constant. I think just July and August are our months that we. But our minds are going though. We're not. We haven't stopped. We're not meeting, but we're still thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, throughout the month of May, leading up to the relay, there are probably other fundraising events the teams are conducting themselves. There are, like the Town Purple events, and let's talk about that in terms of where that's going to be, and then how people can get information about the dates for those events.
Okay. They're in the month of May, like you said,
Yeah.
and they're the four places that they're going to be held is Fitchburg, Leominster, Gardner, and Westminster. And people can go on our relayforlife.org/GTR Gardner MA to find out where all the dates are for these, like the Town Purples. And what we do is we light the gazebos in city halls with purple lights, and we have speakers and a little ceremony, and we start the celebration up to the night of relay.
What percentage of the money raised goes directly to cancer research?
I got that answer just this morning because I wanted to update
Beautiful.
it. Yeah.
It's breaking news.
I wanted to update the figures that I had, and it's 79 cents out of every dollar goes back into research and patient care. And that's probably the highest percentage in any of the charities that are out there. So make sure when you're, and there's many good charities, don't get me wrong. There's people with the Heart Association, things like that.
Yeah.
Just make sure where your money is going. The American Cancer Society, instead of cutting the grant money and patient care for the last 2 years of COVID, had to let go a lot of workers and had to close a lot of offices. Where we had, I think it was 10 in New England before, we have basically 1. And which causes some delay in getting your monies posted to your team and things like that. But we have a great staff partner from, she's in Pennsylvania, but it's almost like she's up here. She's beginning to know Gardner quite well, Gina Battetti. And she's been awesome in helping us, you know, make sure we're doing the right thing, getting the money to the right places, and you know, not only the research that the money goes to, it's very important for the patient care also. There's so many programs. My mother was diagnosed the first time in '85, I think it was, and my sisters and I are like panicking. How are we going to get her to the doctors? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? If we had just known about some of the programs, and some of them have just come into existence recently, but there's something called Road to Recovery, and there's volunteers that take patients to their appointments and you know, pick them up. They even take them out to Boston. Reach to Recovery, where there's groups that you can join that have gone through this already, and they can help you. And maybe one of the most important is our 800 number, 800 ACS 2345. And that number you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You'll get a person that knows how to answer your question, be it they know the answer or they can get you to the right person. So if you wake up as a survivor at 3 o'clock in the morning, or as a caregiver, which I often did, okay, now what am I going to do? You know, my mom has cancer. What? If you call that number, you're going to get an answer. Maybe it's just a soothing voice that will say, you're going to be okay, you know, it'll be okay. But there's somebody there, and they know what you're going through.
Let's have that number again, Sandy.
It's 800 ACS 2345.
The other thing I wanted you to talk about, because I don't know if we've ever, in the interviews we've done in the past, touched upon the different businesses and corporate sponsors you may have. And it's important to give them a shout out as well, because it does take a certain amount of planning time and financial
Yes.
support to do what you're doing. So let's talk about some of those corporate sponsors that you'd like to mention and call out.
One of the things about our relay, the Greater Gardner Relay, is the fact that we don't have the large corporate sponsors that places like California, who was always #1, or Georgia, yeah, have corporate sponsors. They get thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars from a corporate sponsor. Gardner does 90% of it on their own. People
Wow.
going out, getting donations, having fundraisers. We do have a few out that I'd like to mention, and I hope I don't forget anybody. I got a little cheat sheet over
That's
here.
okay. We all do, I think.
Yeah,
We all do, yeah.
First and foremost is the college. Mount Wachusett Community College has been letting us use their field for many, many years. And I can't imagine putting on this relay anyplace else because of the size of it and things like that. And they've just been fantastic about letting us use it. Hannaford Supermarkets, they are there constantly for us. We call Mark Bono and say, hey, Mark, I need this. Hey, Mark, I need that. How about a gift certificate, Mark? You know, and we don't get a $25 gift certificate. He'll give us like $500, you know. And Price Choppers has helped us out for a few years, hoping they're coming back this year. Let's see here. Slattery's in Fitchburg.
Oh.
We called them one year. We were looking for sponsors for the survivor reception. And we normally have between 500 and 700 people coming into that reception. So we have to have a lot of goodies for them. And we can't have anything that you would have to heat up, or anything that would melt in the heat or get bad or anything. So Slattery's has come through for us with veggies and fruits and cheese and crackers, things like that. Let's see here. Okay, for our survivors, we decided, Mickey and I decided that we would like to do something each month for the survivors. So we've been doing a drawing for a gift card from different places. And I really want to thank All Town in Leominster, the gas station, the 99, Lowe's department store, or hardware store,
Yep.
Denny's, and Finicky Fork for giving us gift cards to give to our survivors. It's really, it's made for, we let them know, we think of you all the time. It's not just the survivor dinner, or it's not just the reception. We think of you all the time.
And also Workers Credit Union not only has a team there, and their team usually is the #1 fundraiser because they do such a great job, but they donated a good amount of money, and they bring their bank tellers to help us. So Workers Credit Union is also a fantastic sponsor.
Pretty good friend of ours, too, as a matter of
Yes.
fact.
Yeah,
Here in the Workers Credit Union studios.
Yeah, there you go.
What is the most important thing right now that people can do to support this year's relay?
Join us. You know, come and join us. If you've never been, just come to the relay and see what it's like, and then you, like Sandy said, you will be hooked. But we need the support. We need, we need that money to go back to the American Cancer Society, not only for the research and what we said, patient services, but also education, because, they're the ones who put out that you need your screenings, and that's the message we want to get to people so that cancer doesn't affect them. So we need the support of everybody. Yes.
If you're out there listening, please come up and see us.
Yes.
You can go onto the website, check the website out, see what we do on the website. If you don't want to join a team, or you don't want to commit yet to the ELT, just come up and see what it looks like. And especially if you've lost someone to cancer, it's quite the experience.
And we're doing something special at the end too, because like Sandy said, we're closing this year at 2:00.
Yep.
But at the end on Saturday, we have our closing ceremony where we give the awards and acknowledge people. But we're going to do one last lap with the teams, and that's why we want people there. And that last lap, they're going to come back to the stage, and they're going to ring a bell that's going to mimic the cancer patients ringing the bell when they're done chemo. But our job isn't done yet because we have to find that cure. But it's going to be, I hope, a beautiful, emotional ending to the relay too. So on Saturday.
Something that I was unaware of, and I hope my research is correct, but I'm sure you will correct me if it's not. Since 1994, the Greater Gardner Relay for Life has raised over $12 million for the American Cancer Society.
You're right. You're right.
Again, grassroots organization, people doing it all on their own because of their commitment and their passion to find a cure for this.
Yeah.
Or at least, you know, there's so many cancers out there. Can you find a cure? I still think we can. But there's so many people living longer now, and they're living a good quality of life. It's not the, you know, my mother did not have a good quality of life because we didn't know of all of these things. So, you know, if you ever want to know anything about it, call that 800 number, come up and talk to us. We'll make sure you get to the right place. You know, it's just, it's amazing. It's amazing how much help is out there that people don't know about.
Anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to mention?
Oh my goodness, there's so much. We could keep going. We could keep going on and on and on and on.
Well, let's mention the dates and the times again. Let's start with that.
June 10th, starting 3:30 for the survivor reception under the tent. Opening ceremony at 6 o'clock, and then that night 9 p.m. luminaria.
Yeah.
And then until Saturday, June 11th at 2 p.m.
And the main reason we're doing the 2 p.m. thing right now is, and it's not etched in stone that we will always do it, because I know some people are, it's cancer never sleeps, and we shouldn't either. So we should be doing the 24 hours. We're stopping at 2 because so many people leave in the early afternoon, especially if it's raining, which, you know.
No, don't mention that word. Do not mention that word.
But, well, it could be snowing.
I know.
But if, you know, if we can get enough people back and things like that, so that's why we definitely need, if you're an old team or someone that used to relay and is not now, please give us a call. Please come back just to visit. You know, we'll get you hooked, but just to visit. And
just remember why we do this, and we do it, you know, not only to remember and celebrate our lives, but we do it to help the American Cancer Society find the treatments. And I look at many people that I love that are fine, and myself included, you know, because of the treatments.
Well, Sandy, Marcia, we want to thank you again for everything you do for all these many years for the Greater Gardner Relay for Life. We're certainly looking forward to this year's event. Once again, Paint the Town Purple. Those events are being held in Fitchburg, Leominster, Gardner, and Westminster during the month of May. You can go to the Greater Gardner Relay for Life website to find out those dates, as well as some other fundraising events that other teams may be conducting through the month of May. And we want to see you all, please, on June 10th and 11th at Mount Wachusett Community College. It's the track area where everything is held. There is food, there are beverages, and fun. So we hope you can all join us and be there for the American Cancer Society, for friends, relatives, loved ones, people you want to support, people you want to help. This is the place to go to do it. And we thank you very much for being with us.
And
thank you for having us.